Welcome back to Costumeco. In the Season 3 mid-season episode of The Gilded Age, Marriage is a Gamble, Gladys Russell, after an episode filled with will she, won't she tension, finally succumbs to the social pressures imposed by her overbearing mother, Bertha Russell, as she marries the Duke. But if you are like me, all you can focus on is Gladys's wedding dress. I'll dive deeper into the full ensemble of costumes in Season 3 in a future episode, but in the meantime, check out my The Gilded Age livestream with costume buyer Jed Rivero, available now on replay. I'll link it in the pinned comment below. Now, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to focus on Gladys's wedding. Some of the behind-the-scenes pictures I've scoured from Instagram accounts. Also, as I frequently mention, I'm not an historian, but I will impart to you what I've learned as it comes up. Now, Gladys Russell's forced marriage is inspired by the real-life union of Consuelo Vanderbilt and Charles Spencer Churchill, the 9th Duke of Marlborough, on November 6, 1895. However, in the show, Gladys's wedding is set around 1883 or 1884, over a decade earlier, so the silhouette of her gown would have looked quite different from Consuelo's. According to Fashion History Timeline, throughout the 1880s, day bodices and dresses featured high, narrow shoulders descending into impossibly tight sleeves, a departure from the low, sloping shoulders of the past few decades. Collars were tall and fitted, sometimes boned for shaping. The blog adds that skirts usually featured overskirts that were swagged and tucked up in various ways to reveal the underskirt, which was frequently ruffled or pleated. These overskirts range from pannier-type styles to the longer, gently draped polonaise style. Now you can see the silhouette in these examples of wedding dress fashion plates from the early 1880s and in this 1885 oil painting by French artist James Tissot, featuring gorgeous pastel gowns. Now, by contrast, Consuelo's meringue-like gown with flounces and oversized Lego button sleeves was the fashionable silhouette of her day, reflected in these fashion plates from 1895. And here is an example of an exquisite pearl embellished wedding dress circa 1895 from Augusta Auctions. Now that said, it does look like Gladys's bridesmaids wore white and hats, much like the real Vanderbilt wedding party. An illustration of the dresses and hats appeared on the cover of Vogue on November 14, 1895. Costume designer Kasia Walicka-Maimone tells InStyle magazine that Consuelo Vanderbilt's wedding to the Duke of Marlborough was definitely a source of inspiration. She said, "We did use it as a reference for our approach to certain elements of the wedding, like our bridesmaid dresses and the length of Gladys's train. Also, the overall feel of the wedding and the wedding dress being a day dress were directly inspired by Consuelo's wedding." Now, according to InStyle, Walicka-Maimone used a combination of historical research, paintings, and fashion references as inspiration. She tapped a global village of makers and artisans to bring the vision to life. Producing the bridesmaid dresses, wedding guests, and clergy took an extraordinary amount of assistant costume designers, shoppers, costumers, makers, milliners, and fitters, she explains. This episode mentions that Gladys Russell wanted an American designer, not an English couturier like Charles Frederick Worth. According to a blog post from Ian Drubbin Collection, Consuelo's gown was actually made under the supervision of Catherine Donovan, an Irish-born designer who moved to the U.S. as a child. She later studied in Paris, opened her own dressmaking business in New York, and became a favorite among New York elite's 400. Donovan sold imported gowns by Worth and Pingott, but her own designs were heavily influenced by French fashion houses. By the way, I will have vintage clothing collector Ian Drummond as a guest on a future live stream, so stay tuned for that. Now, to my knowledge, there are no known photographs of Consuelo in her wedding gown other than these illustrations, one specifically by American artist T. Dart Walker. However, a paper reproduction of the dress was created by artist Denise Watson and displayed at Blenheim Palace in 2018. According to the Royal Watcher blog, Consuelo received this Boucheron diamond tiara with large pear-shaped diamonds as a gift from her father, William Kissam Vanderbilt. Consuelo wrote, For my presentation, my wedding dress had been cut low, and with the court train looked bridal and festive. Around my waist was the diamond belt my husband had given me, and on my head a diamond tiara. There were also pearls in profusion. InStyle writes that the fabric for Gladys's wedding dress was sourced in New York City's garment district, as were the flower embellishments, which were painstakingly attached by hand. The dress itself was made in Italy by the team at Torelli Costume. Now, just shortly after the episode aired, Torelli posted photos of the costume on their Instagram page. They've created over 100 costumes for the Gilded Age in previous seasons, but I've also mentioned them on my channel before, as they created some of the most beautiful looks worn by Eva Green in Penny Dreadful and Kirsten Dunst in Marie Antoinette. Now, the chevron origami style pleating on the bodice calls to mind Bertha's dress worn earlier in the season, created for the show by Eric Winterling. InStyle adds that Gladys's veil was made from lace sourced in England and created by milliners Camilla Shivarsky and Ryan Shipman. And I suspect that the veiling is something like this ivory floral embroidered tulle. That same sheer embroidered lace appears repeated in the neckline and sleeves from Joel & Sons fabric in the UK, and if I find the source of the fabric, I'll get back to you in a follow-up video. InStyle also adds that the show's in-house team of tailors, led by Sue Bakula, fit and embellished the piece after it arrived from Italy. Topped off with jewelry by Picchio, also sourced in Italy, the effect was romantic, striking, and opulent enough for a leading heiress. Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts on Gladys's wedding. Let me know in the comments. And as I've mentioned earlier, there's more Gilded Age content coming your way. While you're waiting, feel free to check out my The Gilded Age playlist, linked below. Thank you to my patrons for their continuous support, and thank you for spending time with me. I'll see you in the next video.